Hey, Armin here. Welcome to the NSP Nutrition Show, where we cover training, nutrition, supplementation strategies, and a whole lot more. So stand by. Hey, and welcome to the NSP Show. I'm Armin Eckelbarger.
And I'm Frank Mills. And hey, today we've got another great show for you. We're going to be talking about the fundamentals of 8x8 training and what you should know about branch chain aminos and essential aminos. So, a jam-packed show today. Armin, are you ready, man?
Oh, yeah, ready to go, rock and roll.
All right, so let's get it right into it. The fundamentals of 8x8 training. From what you told me, Armin, this is one of Vince's favorite rep and set schemes. Is that correct?
Well, I think so, but Vince, because he talked about it a lot, he really liked that,
Uh-huh.
but you just never know which one was the actual one that would be his favorite, because he had a lot of good stuff, but this
Right,
one
right.
seemed to get a lot more attention because of the results he got from it. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well, I have not heard of an 8x8, so I was kind of curious. This is a program for beginners?
Well, that's one of the things that Vince didn't feel comfortable with. He felt like you
Mm-hmm.
need to have at least 2 years of training experience to
Wow.
really
Okay.
get the benefits of the 8x8. And that was just his personal thoughts on it. So can a
Mm-hmm.
beginner still do it? And yeah, they could probably still do it. It's just, you get a lot of response when you do anything in the beginning because the central nervous system is so fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But when that starts to level out, this kind of training can help take your results to another level. That was kind of what I think Vince was thinking.
Well, from doing a little bit of research here before we did the show, I did see that he called it an honest workout. So why did Vince call it that?
Well, in his opinion, it's a very hard, demanding workout, and he felt like it would generate. He felt like he got good, pure muscle fiber
Mm-hmm.
that from the training when he was doing it, from the combination. He also felt like the muscle fibers would plump out really well for
Okay.
solid mass and muscularity. From his experience, um, and he felt like he would get all the capillaries involved instead of having just a minimum capillary development. Because when you push as much blood to the muscles as you can, the capillaries have to expand, which can help expand the fascia of the muscle and help it enlarge it. So that's part of the process of enlarging muscle fibers and size is engorging the muscle with a lot of blood flow to help stretch it. So that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
what my understanding, what he felt like. It was a great combination of repetitions with sets.
Okay. So what does doing more than 8 reps do to you, Armin?
Well, there's a lot of things to keep in mind when you're doing resistance training. Time under
Mm-hmm.
tension is important. So the time under tension that they say today, to get a response, you need to have a minimum of 30 seconds of time under tension for doing one set. And
Okay.
so depending on your rep tempo, that can help determine how far that's going to go. But Vince felt his time under tension with 8 reps with using this kind of weight was very effective, but it's a cumulative effect as you keep getting the 8 reps and you get to, I mean, like when I do it, when I get to set 5 and 6, it
Uh-huh.
starts getting tough. And then when you get to 7 and 8, that's when the real stimulation, in my opinion, is really starting to kick in. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you start going over that, he felt like you reduced the stimulation to the muscle. And so that was one of his concerns there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then he felt like just doing, like, if you do more than 8 reps and say you go to 12 reps, he felt like that would stimulate some other growth factors, but not the kind that he was getting from just doing the 8 reps. And, again, it's an old style design. So, other science may look at it differently, but in his opinion, from his experience doing it, when he did more reps. Now, again, we'll talk about how this affects. This is not for every muscle group, so we'll get into that.
Right.
But he felt like once you start going over 8 in this particular category, you're not going to be able to use as much weight as you would like to get that density effect. So that was
Mm-hmm.
another thing. It was pretty important. So
Well, it was kind of funny that you just brought that up because that was my next question. Does the 8x8 work for all muscle groups?
okay, so what Vince felt for certain muscle groups, he felt like the calves and the forearms needed a lot more repetitions. He liked to keep that, I think it was a 12 to 20 rep range, because it's a thicker, denser muscle, because
Mm-hmm.
it's used every day. Your
Right, right,
calves, you're walking on them, you're using it every day. Now, again, you use all your muscles every day, but they tend to get more work, and so they're just a thicker bundle. And so he felt you need to get more blood flow into there by doing higher reps. Now that
right.
doesn't mean you go light, you still go heavy, you go as heavy as possible, but you're really trying to focus to get into that 12 to 20 rep range. And that's for the forearms and calves, that was his the big change up from there.
Okay. All right. So, Armin, I'm sure a lot of people are now kind of wondering what are the best exercises for the 8x8?
So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. When you're doing 8 sets of 8 reps, that's a
Mm-hmm.
good amount of volume. And so when you look at how many sets you're going to do per muscle group, that's a whole nother factor as well. So in my opinion, I like to do the 8x8 for my lagging muscle groups, especially for upper body. Now, lower body, I like to stay a little higher rep for me because I tend to work better for me, but that's a different story here.
Mm-hmm.
But if you
Mm-hmm.
have a lagging muscle group, say it's your chest, your shoulders, your biceps, your back especially, then I'd like to pick an exercise that's going to help me with my weaker area and go 8x8 with that. All right, so that's one thing to keep in mind when you're considering what movement to do, what exercise to do.
Mm-hmm.
But like for me, I've used it for barbell, I've used it for dumbbell machine presses.
Mm-hmm.
Like the barbell would be the neck press. It's a good one for that. Dumbbells. I actually did them the other day. We did the incline dumbbell presses. I wanted to focus on my upper pec for that workout, so I did 8x8 on that, and
Mm-hmm.
I did it with 60 pounds. And the last 2 sets were pretty rough, but that's what you got to do. I like it to do with flies. Fly work or pec deck. They really isolate and fatigue the pecs, and then you finish up with pressing movements. I think that's a real good game changer. Rows, any kind of row movement, you're doing 8x8. I mean, it's going to really get to you. Now, that's also going to fry your forearms too, but that's just part of it. Pull-ups, now pull-ups are real tough. So, I mean, you got to be in good condition to do 8x8 with pull-ups. I've already done that, and that's tough. Pull downs, shoulder press, your lateral raises. He was a big fan of that. Even deadlifts and squats, and that's super challenging there. So you got to really
Mm-hmm.
check your ego. You got to check your ego at the door when you're doing that. So you can't just be going, "Oh, I'm going to do this heavy weight and crank them out," because your heart rate
Mm-hmm.
gets really jacked as you get into those last few. And we'll talk about the rest periods. But then you can do leg presses and hack squat, leg curl, leg extensions. Close grip bench if your triceps are kind of lagging. Great move there. Push downs,
Mm-hmm.
tricep extensions. Drag curl, excellent one for developing the biceps. Hammer curl, preacher curl. There's a lot of different combinations, but you got to find the depending on how weak your muscle is, find an exercise and do it with that one exercise as a primary movement, and then you finish up your other sets with other movements, other angles.
Well, since you mentioned like sets for each body part, how many sets do you suggest typically for that?
See, that's the thing, is when you're doing 8 sets of 8, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So even for Vince, he felt like 15 to 16 sets total for a muscle group is all you can really handle. So I will say this: I do 20 from time to time for my quads, my leg workouts, and every now and then for my back. But I typically like to stay in that 9 to 16 set range. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if I'm doing 9 sets, I'm just going really heavy for that type of stimulation. I'm not doing a lot of 8x8 on that. I mean, you can, but if you figure you're going to do 2 different movements, you're going to do 8 sets of 8. You're only going to be able to do two exercises and keep in
Right.
that's the number set range. Now, this is also mostly based on recovery and then trying to stay in that 45-minute window, because it seems to be the sweet spot, I think. And even Vince felt
Right.
that that was a sweet spot for recovery. So that's another thing you got to keep in mind when you're figuring out how many sets you're going to do, is not getting overtrained by going too long, because then you're tearing down too much muscle. And so that recovery period is just not going to be as good, which is going to affect your strength anyways. The whole purpose of
Hmm.
this is to get stronger, so the next time you can do your 8x8 a little bit more efficiently, and even potentially be able to move up in some weight.
All right. So the folks that are out there either watching or listening, I'm sure that they're kind of curious, and I am too. So let's go through a hypothetical here. If you were going to train your chest using
Yeah.
an 8x8, what would the routine look like, just out of curiosity?
Well, for me, I'm a big pre-exhaust training kind of guy. So,
Uh-huh.
so what I recommend for myself and my clients is, I would suggest doing 2 to 3 warm-up sets of a compound exercise. So that could be
Hmm.
like dumbbell presses or machine presses, something like that. And then I'm gonna, do the isolation exercise. So I'm gonna do
Right.
either pec deck for 8 sets of 8, or flies, like incline flies or flat flies for 8 sets of 8. And your chest is going to be on fire. Now, the
I
purpose of
bet.
me doing it in order is because my triceps are still going to be fresh, and so are my
Hmm.
shoulders, because they're not as involved when you're doing a fly movement. They're just not. They're not needed for that, because you're stretching and contracting. So then when I go to 8 sets of 8 with presses, and you got to be, again, check your ego at the door, make sure you can finish. Then I'm going to do it as effectively as possible. But even when you're doing it that way, if you fatigue too much, then what I'll do is a rest pause technique like that, and then be able to get those 8 sets of 8. So this gives me a total of 16 sets. Okay,
Hmm.
so if I want to do anything else, then I may finish up with some garanda dips, maybe 4 sets of that, just to finish up, or I'm done with those 16 total sets, depending how fatigued the muscles are. All right.
Well,
Now another,
well,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
just
yeah.
like
Go ahead.
yeah, I
Wow.
was just going to say that now, if you just want to do the fly movements and then go to the dips, you could do that,
Right.
or just do 8 sets of 8 with the fly movements, and then do 4 sets of presses of some type, and then 4 sets of dips. So you get
Hmm.
a nice rounded development. So as you can tell, a lot of combinations are workable with this by using that foundation of the 8x8.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, this seems like it's very demanding on the body using a heavy weight as possible. Um,
Mm.
I know you're big on the recovery side of things. So, how much rest is recommended for this?
Well, Vince, he was in that 15 second to 30 second, and so for me, I like doing the 30 second, but every now and then I've done the 15, and it's brutal. So I have a stopwatch I use so I can time it,
Uh
because I
huh.
tried counting, but as you fatigue, you start, you're just like, counting's even a problem too, because you're trying to breathe.
Right.
So
Right.
I use a stopwatch, and like the other day I did it, it was 30 seconds, and
Right.
again, the last 2 rounds were just barely getting to 8. So again, what you'll do, if you can't get 8, then you rest for maybe a 5 count or something like that, and then you try to squeeze out the last few reps. Like I couldn't get it past. I got to 6, and then there was nothing left. So I had to pause,
Gotcha.
rest for about a 15 count. I jumped back and squeezed out the last 2. Then I had to rest for 30 seconds and do the last 8x8. So I was at a max weight, as you can tell, and you do get quality soreness from this too, and it is a really
Hmm.
phenomenal pump. So, but also you're going at a fast pace, so you're burning good energy.
Hmm. Well, since you mentioned heavy weight, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are curious. How do you determine how much weight to actually use?
That's always a guessing game as well. Now
Hmm.
Vince would say, pick a weight that you can do like 12 reps with. A heavy weight you could do 12 reps with for maybe a couple of rounds, that kind of thing, and then
Right.
start with that, and then see how you finish. So that's kind of what I recommend people when they first start.
Okay.
Obviously, if you go too light, you go too light, then that just means you do some other heavier stuff when you get done. But
Hmm.
once you find that, like, I did the 60s on the incline press, and I was coming off of a slight shoulder injury, so I'm working my
Right.
way back up. Normally I go a little heavier than that, but that 60 was pretty rough. Getting to the full 8 sets of 8 reps with the
Hmm.
incline dumbbell presses, because that rest period, it starts really, it accumulates pretty quickly. And you're just like, okay, and you got to really get your mental capacity going too, because you got to gut through those last few reps.
Absolutely. Whoa, it seems like a grueling workout. Any final thoughts on the 8x8?
Yeah, it's a great rep and set scheme.
Hmm.
Um, but again, I think people should use it for like a weak muscle group area, and then excluding the calves and the forearms, obviously.
Hmm.
But
Right.
when you're doing that, it's great for conditioning as well because of the short rest periods. But if you pick that one exercise, again, if you're not getting the thickness in your chest and you want to get more development on that middle part of the chest, then I like to use it for fly work as an example. Another one would be if I'm um, really wanting to work my back. It's either going to be
Hmm.
some pull ups, or it'll be pull downs with different grips. Just pick one of those, or any kind of a row movement. You pick one of those, and then add in the other exercises on top of that. So that's what you want to keep in mind. Is okay, what's the thing I need to bring up? Let me work on that. Whatever exercise that's
Hmm.
going to be to help develop it. So if you need more lat width, then you want to do a pull down movement or pull up movement that's going to affect that lat width, overhand or neutral grip, that kind of thing. And
Hmm.
see how you can get the full 8 reps. And I got to say that for back exercises, your minimum is going to be 8 reps because there's
Hmm.
so many muscles back there to try to get them all fatigued. You got to at least do 8 reps or more. So I like 8 to 12 when I'm training my back as an example as well.
A lot of great information on the 8x8, Armin. Definitely appreciate that. Wow, it
Yeah.
just seems like for somebody who's ready to take that on. Good luck to you. Wow, that's some tough stuff there.
Well,
All right,
it
so
makes it makes it fun though because it's different. So, but hopefully everybody
right,
got some takeaways on that. So,
got to change it up. You're right. Okay. Well, hey, if you like this show, the NSP Nutrition Show, we encourage you to check out our other show that we do. It's called Frank Mills Reality Fitness. We've got about 90 episodes now, and we've covered just
yeah,
about every topic from hormones to sugar to all different types of topics. And now we've kind of changed the format because we got so many questions coming in
yeah,
about the stars and entertainers of our world on how they look so good. And Armin and I have done a lot of digging in the last 8 shows, Armin. We've really dug into some really popular actors, actresses, entertainers, and
yeah.
we've really found out some compelling information about their workout routines and their nutrition programs, right?
It's really shocking. I mean, I am totally amazed by what these people are having and these trainers are having them do. I think Vince would just be like going, "Oh my God!" But you know, that's what they're doing. They feel like it's working. I get that, and a lot of things work. Don't get me wrong, but you talk about a waste of time and effort, in my opinion. What these people are doing to stay in shape, it's you don't need to eat 6, 7 meals a day. You don't need to be training for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and do all these excessive amounts of sets and reps that these trainers have them doing. And they're young trainers. That's probably one of the
Mm-hmm.
bigger issues. A lot of them are young. So, anyways,
Well, if you want to check out our show, our shows that we've done recently, we've done for Henry Cable, who actually played Superman, Liam's Hemsworth. We've done Jennifer Lopez,
yeah.
and many others. So we encourage you to check it out. But stand by. Armin and I are going to take a quick break. You'll get a quick message here from NSP Nutrition, and Armin and I will be right back.
Hey, and welcome back to the NSP Nutrition Show. I'm Armin Eckelbarger.
And I'm Frank Mills, and we're going to get right into what you need to know about branch chain aminos and essential aminos.
Mhm.
And, when I saw this pop into my email, Armin, I thought, wow, this is quite an interesting topic. So
Yeah.
why don't we start here? Let's go and describe the differences between the two.
Okay, good point. Well, branched chain aminos are pretty simple. You just have three key amino acids. You've got leucine, isoleucine, and valine. That's what makes up your branched chain aminos.
Okay.
Um, they're essential nutrients to help support muscle metabolism and important for building muscle tissue protein as well. But when you look at it, if you look at the essential aminos, they have branched chains in them. So that's actually a good thing too. But you also have all the other amino acids you need for continuing to have protein synthesis happen. So that's
Mm-hmm.
another thing I think some people kind of miss when they're doing it. So when you have all the essential aminos, what you're going to get from there is they can be used to help provide energy because they can convert to glucose as needed, which is going to your building blocks of protein and amino acids. So it's going to help your muscularity. It helps with digestion,
Mm-hmm.
sleeping and wake cycles. Protein is just, amino acids are so necessary to the body. Helps support the immune system and keep it functioning at a high level. Helps with your brain neurotransmitters, skin and nails and hair. Also producing hormones. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have essential aminos for all those things. So there's some quick differences on how they compare out.
Well, I think that's pretty interesting, and it sounds to me like essential amino acids do more than the branch chain amino acids.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
So there's going to be a lot of debate on this because you have these branch chain amino fans, and I've taken a
Uh-huh.
lot of branch chain aminos, and I got to tell you, I've taken the branch chain aminos, but I don't know jack from it. So,
Right.
but I've taken them. They're inexpensive. That's the nice thing about them, but
Mm-hmm.
compared to a quality amino acid profile, but there's always going to be debate on it, but you know, that's where I stand on it.
Well, for all of us that have went out there and shopped, we see all kinds of companies actually trying to promote branch chain amino acids as the way to go for training versus the essential. So I'm kind of curious, why is that?
Well, this is strictly my opinion on this, okay?
Okay,
Because
here we
there's always
go.
going to be debate on it, okay? But
Right, right.
in my opinion, it's because they're cheaper. They're just very cheap to produce and
Mm-hmm.
resell.
Right,
Because
right.
when you look at a good essential amino acid profile spectrum like the kind of NSP has, they're not cheap, but you also have all the aminos, so you're not missing anything when you're taking them. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. It's a cheap thing to sell. They're very easy to produce and have, and that's why you're going to see more of them versus the expense of doing a regular full spectrum amino acid.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about the quality and all natural of the NSP supplements. I did notice that NSP Nutrition does not sell branched chain amino acids. Why is that?
Well, the philosophy behind that, again, it started with Vince as well, and Ron and the other owners, but you know, that's a much better way to go. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all about quality, all about results. And so they feel like, well, what we want to do a branch chain, we use a full spectrum and get all the benefits of the full spectrum. Uh,
Right, right.
that just made a lot of sense to them. Again, I'll probably get a lot of heat from this comment, but it's just their branch chains really they're not as needed as you would have for a full spectrum. That's why you have so many people promoting whey protein because it has a full spectrum amino acid in it, having that before and after workouts,
Mm-hmm.
which, that could be a good alternative too, depending on, if it had carbohydrates in it, that'd be something I'd be concerned about. But, like I've said before, I've done both. I've done branch chains and, and the full spectrum. I like the full
Right.
spectrum, but you're going to have to be on a budget when you're doing that kind of thing. Now, the one thing I will say is this: I have been experimenting with just 5 grams of leucine, which is a branch chain, but just leucine by itself, because I've been
Mm-hmm.
reading about different articles on it regarding how it can help stop any further breakdown of muscle after you get done
Okay.
training. So that's the the theory behind it. So I have been experimenting with it. It's supposed to slow down, the breakdown of the skeletal muscle tissue. And it also has been shown to decrease, muscle soreness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I still get sore no matter what I'm doing. So
Right.
I don't know if anything really does a really great job on that, but that's what they say. So,
Mm-hmm.
that would be the exception to me, but I prefer to take the full spectrum amino, right before I work out because they're going to get utilized and there's nothing in there except the amino acids. So,
All right. So when should someone supplement with essential amino acids, Armin?
so in my opinion, I like to use them. If I don't do beef liver, I'll use
Mm-hmm.
essential aminos as an alternative to keep myself in a positive nitrogen balance. So I like to use them in between meals. And I also like to use them before I work out. But when I get done working out, I usually have a meal. So I don't use them after I work out. But if I couldn't have any protein, a protein drink, something like that, and I didn't have anything accessible right away, then I would use them after I work out as well. But
Gotcha.
basically right now, I just take them right before I train. So they'll be in my system. So my body has them to use. So what I do is do that leucine, after the training. But for most people, it's going to be good to take in between meals to keep you in a positive nitrogen balance. You don't have to have another meal. It can help save you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then right before training. So you can take them, like 2 times in between meals, like between breakfast and lunch, if you're doing that. And then lunch and dinner, taking in between there would be another ideal way to do it. Now they do feel like it does help with people who are older. Taking these amino acids can help them
Mm-hmm.
because their protein breakdown is a lot higher as you get older.
Right.
So me and you being in the like you're close to 60, I'm 58.
Mm-hmm.
We want to keep the chips in our favor, so that's why it's good to kind of keep that in mind when you're supplementing or you're watching your protein intake.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure a lot of people too are wondering, if all else fails, are there prescription options available out there that you can recommend or that you know of?
Well, not on the amino acids. I mean, there's some you can
Uh-huh.
do an IV. There is an IV drip strategy, but that's really for people who are in severe shape. So that's not going to happen
Right, right.
for most people. It's not necessary. So
Mm-hmm. So that's really it. It's either amino acids or hey, you're pretty much out of luck. Is that what you're saying?
well, I mean, it's pretty simple to fix. It's just a
Yeah,
matter
yeah.
of of budget. So, but most people aren't going to need something on a prescription level for that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, any final thoughts as we wrap up this segment on amino acids?
Yeah, I would just say that they're good, but the biggest thing is getting in the cost because they're not going to be as cheap as branch chains. So if you're on a budget, then obviously you can use some branch chains for that purpose. And again, there's some debates about our branch chains really that great. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll have that to contend with. Amino acids are amino acids as well. But in my opinion, um, I would also pay attention to the cost of the amino acids because it depends on where they extract them, how much better they're going to be. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
extracting amino acids from soy products, probably not going to be a complete amino acid profile, even though they're selling it to you as amino acids. So you need to do some homework when you buy essential amino acids to see where they're extracted from. So that's another thing to keep in
Absolutely.
mind.
Well, Armin, as always, a lot of great information, man. So thank you so much.
No problem. Hope you guys got some takeaways on that. And, give us some questions though, if you do at the, in the question section in case you need more clarification. But, I've done them both. And I think that, for the money, I would go with the full spectrum, but it's up to you.
Absolutely. Now, I also encourage everybody to check out nspnutrition.com. They've got a lot of new apparel on the website. We got some new
Oh
Vince's
yeah.
Gym shirts and some new Vince shirts out there. Also,
Yeah.
as we've told you in previous shows, if you're looking for some really quality workout gear, Armin, it's what you use, right?
It's good stuff, man. I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, the shirts, I like the shirts and the tank tops and, You know, even the straps, the belts, they're good. The gloves, definitely recommend them.
So definitely check it out. Now, we definitely appreciate you watching or listening to the
Yeah.
show. And we encourage you, if you have a question, a topic, a suggestion, I would encourage you to engage with us. And Armin, there's a bunch of ways they can do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, just especially, you know, using each show, you can do it that way. Um, so, I mean, it's just whatever's convenient for them. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
they can email support at nspnutrition.com too. So,
Yeah. Or, hey, just comment in the YouTube section too, because
yeah.
Armin's paying attention to that. He normally will answer you right there and right away. But like I said, Armin, another great show. We appreciate everybody joining us. And check back next week for another new episode of the NSP Nutrition Show.
Hey, thanks for checking out the NSP show. Go to nspnutrition.com where you can find a whole heap of resources to help you achieve stunning definition and eye-popping levels of muscularity. Don't forget you can save 10% on your first order by using the code NSP show at the checkout. Catch you next time.